Welcome to Mics on Mics, amplifying the information that supports student success, one conversation at a time. Today on Mics, we're talking about test scores, what they mean, how they're used, and how they support student success.
Hi, welcome to Mics on Mics. This is Amy Todd, the superintendent of Carmichaels Area School District. We're back for our second podcast. Today we're outlining the importance of test scores. I have with me Mr. Dan Poland, the middle school principal. Mr. Poland, would you like to introduce yourself?
Dan Poland, middle school principal, Carmichaels Area School District, going on year 6 right now.
Thanks. So we're going to talk today about the importance of the test scores. We do the PSSAs and the Keystones. What are the test scores really about?
So when we talk about test scores, you're kind of targeting 3 different groups of people, and you're explaining them: the students themselves that are taking it, the parents of the student, and then, the district itself, how we look at test scores. So when I talk to the students, or the teachers talk to the students, and what are the tests, it's a way to gauge their understanding of a certain content throughout the length of 1 year, whether it be, 6th grade ELA, 6th grade math, 8th grade science. The Keystones are a little different. I know they measure certain subject areas, where ours is a little bit more broader because it's all of math. But that's really what the test does. It's a state standardized test that helps us identify a student's ability, or their learning ability, and what they know on a certain content within the span of a year. So that's, when you're talking about the test itself, that's what it evaluates.
And so that the public knows and the people who are listening know, what components are tested in the PSSA? What grades and components? So
6th, 7th, and 8th. Well, actually, I think it starts in 3rd grade. So, but here in the middle school, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th. 4th and 8th in science, 3 to 8 in ELA and math.
And why do the test scores matter to the teachers and the staff at the school?
Well, it's mattering. It's a good wage for us as a school in general, and the teachers, to gauge what we're weak at and what we're strong at. Like what when we assess the test, what did we do well on? And you would hope that equates to the teachers teaching that to the students, and the students retaining it, and the students being able to recall it during those 2 weeks of testing. So when we look at it as teachers, which standards did we hit? Did we master those standards? Were we proficient? Were we below average on those? Or there's things we need to work on? So as a teacher, if I'm looking at my test, I'm going to look at, where do we score well at? Where do we not score so well at? What were we strong in? Is there something where we can move some kids? Their scores were right at the cutoff line as being proficient, or below, or proficient to advance. So as a teacher, when we look at our test scores, that's kind of what we're looking at: the standards, what we were strong at, what we were weak at, and then that allows us to go back and talk about how are we assessing our kids throughout the year. Are we benchmarking them to see if we're hitting those standards at certain points in time throughout the year with pacing guides?
Can you give us an example of a pacing guideline, what that would look like to a student?
So for a student, or more so for a teacher, but if I'm a teacher walking into the classroom, you kind of want to pace it on a 4.5 weeks. That's usually the half of the 9 weeks. Like, what do I need to cover in unit 1, 2, and 3? And I kind of map that out throughout the year so that I'm making sure that I'm hitting all the standards that the state's going to test me on at the end of the year.
What are some of the big misconceptions that are related to the testing for students?
That they don't matter, that they don't equate to anything, and things of that nature. That they don't measure your growth, they don't measure your intelligence. These tests don't really define students. They don't.
Everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
So we know that, and the test scores are just a picture in time. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do with the growth, and how the growth helps the teachers and helps you move forward with the PSSAs and the learning process?
So when we're looking at growth on the test score, we're looking at where the kid was, and at the end of the year, where we moved them as far as, answering as many questions as they could in a certain standard. So as the state has a flatline bottom number is of where you are, whether you're proficient or advanced, we always like to see the students growing on their score. And if they're growing in their score, the state says that that's a direct result of what the teacher's doing in the classroom. So if we can have our growth every year trend upward, eventually at some point, you're going to see those students get to advanced or proficient.
And how do you think teachers use the data to adjust their lessons throughout the year?
Well, throughout the year, like I said, when we benchmark and we're looking at the Fireflies or the CDTs, the testing that we benchmark for, if there's something that we're weak on as a whole, if I have 60 students and 40 of them are not scoring well on a benchmark, did I hit that standard right? Do I need to go back and reteach it? Things of that nature, kind of aligning what we're strong on, but throughout the year, what we're weak on, so that we can go out and make sure that they are retaining that information.
So our first podcast was on the importance of attendance and why it's important for students to be in school on a regular basis. Could you tie the attendance to the PSSA testing a little bit?
Yeah, so, you want to be here every day of the testing. You want to make sure that you're physically feeling pretty good. You're getting enough rest. You feel energized. If you miss a day of testing, it's like you got to, they do give you a week for makeup, but it just kind of gets you off kilter out of your consistency. It is big throughout the year. You don't want to miss 2 weeks of school and come back and think you're going to pick up where you left off. So when you miss a day of testing during those 2 weeks of testing time, it kind of throws your routine out a little bit. So.
And how do you think parents can help us with the PSSA scoring and the attendance? What are some things that the parents can do?
You don't want to send kids sick, but make sure that they're getting enough rest. Make sure that their nutritious is where it needs to be. That they're eating breakfast, and that they're. The big thing with testing is motivation. I think with the kids, you have to get them motivated for those 2 weeks to just try their very best. That's all that we ask our kids. Make sure you're here during the testing and make sure you're trying your very best. You're taking your time. You're using your highlighter. You're writing down on scratch paper. You're reading the questions. You're trying to make, if you really don't know what the answer is, you're trying to make the best educated guess. If you're narrowing choices down, things. So just try your best, your very best during those 2 weeks that we're testing.
And what are some test-taking strategies that you might offer students during the test? What would you recommend the students think about when they're taking a test?
Slow down. It's not a time test. You know what I mean? So make sure that you're reading it in its entirety. Make sure you understand. If it tells you to write a rough draft, write a rough draft. Read the entirety of the question and then look at the choices that you have on the multiple choice. Make sure that you can get rid of one choice and then narrow the other ones down, and go back and read. And then when you are finished with that section, go back and double check it, triple check it. Like I said, it's not a time test, so you're not up against the clock. So while you're in there, you might as well do the best you can.
And what are some of the things that students are allowed to use while they're taking the test? Are they allowed to use laptops, calculators?
So a lot of that stuff is embedded into the DRC programming. I know the calculators in there, they are allowed scratch paper if they need to write down anything, if they're more comfortable with that. But a lot of the tools now that we're online, Ms. Todd, are embedded into the software when they're taking the test. So.
And what should the parents do with the results? They get the results every year.
If you have questions, please ask questions. Go over those results with your kids. Understand, because it maps it out pretty well. Like, I was weak in this standard. I was weak in this area. Maybe go over that stuff with some teachers. Call and say, hey, Bobby or Jimmy was not strong in this area. How do we help them with that? Just communicate with the teachers and the administration during the testing when you get your results,
Can you give us an example of an area that you know of as more of a trouble area, for example, in math, that students could practice on prior?
There's a lot of great, like I said, with the benchmarking, with the software, with the study island, our teachers do a good job of giving them the materials that they need building up to the test, and review, recall on the standards that they've covered already. It should be on the test. A big part of this is assessing the test itself as teachers. They break down how many questions will be on fractions, This is just an example. How much on, sentence structure. So as the staff here at Carmichaels, we try to dissect the test and make sure that we are hitting all the areas we need to hit at a high level.
And how do you think the teachers would want parents to communicate concerns to them when it comes to testing?
I would hope that they're all on board with, in middle school, this is kind of like our Super Bowl. Those 2 weeks we try to motivate the kids. We have a pep rally. We have a lot of incentives. As parents at home, I have 5 kids in the district. I want to know where my kids are in regards to the state and the other kids in their classroom. And if they're, not doing well, then as a parent, how can I help my kid? What do I need to do? Some extra tutoring, go over with them, things of that nature.
And the PSSA tests are used to compare our school with other schools in the county. Do you know any of that data that you could compare, or how you use that data to compare?
So when we look at county schools, we're kind of doing a deep dive into that now from 3rd to 8th grade. We're right there in the ballpark with the other schools. Our math scores have been a little bit lower here in the past, so we're hoping to improve on those. But it is, when you take these, it's a state. We're up against all the schools in the state. So, and we always tell the kids, like, we want to be the best school in the county. I want to be the best school in the state. Like, that's what our goal is. It's like any sporting event or baseball game or football game. You want to, we prepared you all this year. We just need you to go out there in 2 weeks and give us your very best. Be here, be engaged, and do your best.
So tests are very stressful for students. Do you have any ideas or suggestions that you could use or give the students to get rid of the anxiety and the stress that comes along with the testing?
I think you need to put it in perspective in the broader scheme of life. Like I said, this test is not the know-all, be-all to our kids. We have great tests here, just kids here that are super high academic, but they might not test well. That doesn't mean anything, you know what I mean? This is just these tests are to help us on what we're weak at and what we're strong at. And in the same way with the student, I would tell them, if you're stressed about this, talk to other people. How are they handling it? How are your classmates handling it? Talk to your teachers. At the end of the day, this is a way that we're just going to assess your knowledge on a certain contact area through a year. It doesn't mean that if you do bad this year, you're going to do bad next year. And if you don't ever do well on it, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. There's a lot of really successful people in life that didn't, per se do well on their standardized testing in school. So I would tell them to, prioritize this. During the 2 weeks, you want to do your very best. And that's really all you can control. That's what we tell them. You got to show up, do your very best. And if you did that, then that's all we can ask.
And this score doesn't define who you are as a person. You have other things in your life going on. You may have stress that day. Something may have happened at home. But come in, give it your all. And if you don't do well this year, next year you could do great. You could knock it out of the park. So what are some of the openings that you get once you pass your keystones? Does it help you? I know in the high school, it'll probably helps more because once they do the algebra and the biology keystones, it opens up different avenues. Could you talk anything about that?
Yeah, so definitely, in regards to 8th graders going into 9th grade, they're looking at their test scores to see about AP classes or honor classes. We do the same thing here with the 6th and 7th graders and even 5th graders coming up. So it opens up different avenues as to the, difficulty that we can kind of assess you at when you come up to middle school, and then it opens up your schedule a little bit. Like I said, with the keystones in high school, I know if you pass those, it opens up different avenues to scheduling and things.
Of course, test scores don't just impact schools, they impact students every day. So we asked some of our middle school students to share their thoughts on test scores and what they mean to them. In regards to standardized tests, what do you think they're meant to show?
How your teachers, which teachers help you the most and what you need help on specifically. I think they can help show progress.
In your opinion, do you think the test scores define how smart someone is?
No, because I feel like your smartness, it cannot be defined by just one test. because you can be like really academically smart, but not common sense smart, or vice versa. So I think that if you really wanted to see how smart you were, you'd have to take multiple tests in different areas than just in subjects like ELA, math, and science.
Personally, what do you feel helps you do well on these types of tests?
You can look over materials that your teachers have already given you.
Another thing I do, I will chew gum during class, so I pick up the information better, so when I'm on the test I have gum, and it helps me kind of correlate the stuff from school that I learned into the test.
As a student, what would you want an adult to know about test scores?
The tests that you take don't show all your intelligence.
Another thing too is some people aren't good test takers. In that, I know one of my friends, she's really smart, but on tests, she doesn't do as good as you would think because she's just really stressed out about it.
I think stress is a big part, because sometimes if you have a small quiz, you could do really good, and then you could have the same problems on a big test, but people keep talking about it and stress you out about it, so you don't do as good.
What is some advice that you would give to fellow middle school students also taking the PSSAs?
I would tell them just don't really focus on the idea of taking a test, just focus on answering a question and seeing if you know it or not. And it doesn't matter what you get, because it's not graded. It doesn't hurt you in a grade-wise thing, but just do your best, and that's all that matters.
And I think you also need to be confident in yourself, because most people already know what we're taking a test on, but they just aren't confident in themselves, so they mess up.
Another thing too is it's not just you, everyone else is doing the same exact thing as you. It just might be different questions, but everyone's stressed out, so after the test you can have someone to talk to about to relieve the stress of it for the next days to come, and just don't worry about it.
Now, let's take a moment to hear from a high school student and their perspective on test scores. From your perspective, why would you say that the keystones are important?
I would say that they're important because it really shows students how much they've actually learned and actually absorbed the information that teachers are teaching, and if they need to spend more time learning in different ways and finding different study habits than what they're doing.
Do you believe that the Keystone tests are an accurate depiction of a student's academic abilities?
Absolutely not. I think that some people are much better test takers than others, and testing anxiety is a big thing. And me being one of those people that do worse on a test than just getting to be relaxed and doing an assignment. I wouldn't say I'm a bad student, so I would say that my test scores probably shouldn't define how I am as a student.
As someone who has taken both the PSSAs and the Keystones, what would you say are things that helped you find success?
I would say not to cram study, just to be actually learning the material as it's given to you, and actually applying yourself to learning it instead of just, taking the easy way out and not applying yourself, and then not getting discouraged if you don't pass them on the first time or don't get the score you wanted, because there's always chances to take those again and get a higher score and study more.
Why is it beneficial for a high school student to do well on their Keystone exams?
So after passing the Keystones, it does open a lot more class options than if you don't pass them the first time. AP Literature is one that you have to pass your Keystones for. A couple of the biology classes you have to pass your biology Keystones for, and especially the math Keystones, those are big. You can go into calculus and statistics and stuff like that.
I want want to thank Mr. Poland for coming and sharing his insight on the PSSAs and the Keystones. We're all in this boat together, so if you need any assistance or you need any help with the studying for the test or practicing for the test, you can reach out to any of your instructors, you can reach out to any of your principals, and we're all here to help you try and do the best you can possibly do during the PSSA testing.
This has been Mics on Mics.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.